Well, I think the economy, first and foremost, is the biggest challenge that all the retailers are facing, especially with deflation that was going on in the food business. All of us are working through that opportunity, but it has not been easy. Also, the unemployment rate being so high, it's very difficult to maintain market share when people are price conscious and looking for the lowest price, and it puts pressure on just about everybody. So competition is the other thing. There's a lot of competition in the food space, and so you have to find out a way of differentiating yourself from the competitors.
I'd say some of the biggest risks facing healthcare today would be compliance. Certainly there's a lot of laws and regulations, particularly in the healthcare industry, that we want to make sure that we're properly complying with. And internal audit can play the role of helping to make sure that the company is complying appropriately. So I'd say that's one of the largest issues facing the healthcare industry right now.
I think the biggest challenge, and what I would recommend to any chief auditor or audit organization, is to focus on the operational issues and not so much on the financial issues. And get involved in enterprise risk management, finding out what the core strategies are, what are the opportunities for achieving the business objectives and satisfying the strategies of a company, and then developing an audit program around that.
Some of the relevance issues or challenges that I would face from an internal audit perspective and getting that relevance from the rest of the organization, it's usually when we're going into new areas, areas where we haven't historically been, so we don't have a track record, and areas where there might not be that recognition that internal audit can still provide assistance and input and insight, even though we may not be historically the area they've gone to for feedback. So it's usually trying to show that you do have knowledge that you can bring to the table and you can speak their language.
I think some of the biggest challenges faced by a CAE in today's environment, we have a number of what I would consider traditional roles. So I would call it the assessment role. We're trying to provide assurance. But I think internal auditing needs to step beyond that. So you've heard people talk before about wanting to focus more on the operational aspects. We're focusing more on risk. The question that begs to be asked is whether or not internal audit should actually be leading some of these various areas versus being a thought starter. And so in this day and age, in trying to provide value to the company, we need to try to help those companies, achieve their strategic objectives. So if the internal audit's mandate within the company is aligned with the strategic objectives of the company, I think that's the best way we'll end up providing value, because if they're able to achieve, and usually one of them is, top line growth, it's something where we'll be seen as a force for change and a force for adding value.
I'd say just staying relevant with the different industries that we operate in and providing relevant help and assistance to our clients. When I mean staying relevant, it's not so much the technical aspect. I would say staying relevant with our clients and making sure that my staff is appropriately staffed with, directors and managers, seniors and staff that can appropriately serve, the client service function and give the type of technical and operational and compliance expertise that they deserve.
My vision for our internal audit activity is to really be that business partner who can help them to navigate the risks that the company's facing, ensuring that we've got adequate controls in place to address those risks. We've got adequate resources that are addressing those risks. So really to show the value that we can bring to the organization, and also bring that control focus as well, which I think is really relevant across all aspects of the organization, not just the finance part of the organization. For me, the deciding factor for joining the Audit Executive Center was that opportunity really to feel like I was getting an opportunity to network and get information that would be important as a chief audit executive. Focused on really what's critical from a chief audit executive perspective to be successful?
I'm looking to actually probably do a lot of knowledge sharing. One of the big aspects of our organization is in San Diego, we probably have a handful of extremely large companies. And so after you've pinged your peers in those locations, it's probably very important to be able to ask your other peers questions, but those around the country, so you get a lot of a wide range of knowledge and background.
Just understanding issues, problems that others are facing. Some of it is actually quite sobering to see people have some of the same issues that I have. Others, just seeing other people's perspectives on things.
Well, as a new member of the Audit Executive Center, what I'll be looking for is information on some of the latest trends and developments in some of the key risk areas. You know, we have a lot of interest around risk management, ERM, GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. I'd say those are a couple of the big areas where we're just trying to learn more about key ways to manage risks and manage compliance.
Well, I think the interface that you have with your peers, what I found is it's very difficult to find somebody that was of the same size as we were. We're a Fortune 50 company, and I have belonged to roundtables that focus on retail and things of this sort, but I find I have more in common with other large companies regardless of the industry that they're in.
One of the first things that I did when I joined the Audit Executive Center was go on to the, there's a portion of the site where you actually can obtain different work papers and whatnot, just to see what other folks are doing out there for the same respective areas. In the end, I think it's important for you to be able to benchmark how effective your department is.
Well, when I went to some of the roundtables and I realized that the other chief auditors had many of the same opportunities that I have, as far as running our business. And I realized that these are the people that, can add value to a lot of the things that we're doing, we're trying to do. Well, my experience has been fantastic. I've been to 3 or 4 roundtables, and virtually every one of them has been very exciting for me personally, because you're dealing with people of the same intellect and experience, and a lot of times when you go to conferences you have a wide range of experience, and many of the courses offered appeal to entry level and not necessary to a chief auditor. So the roundtable is a good way to bridge that gap.
I think the IIA in general has excellent conferences. Last fall, 2 of my directors went to the All-Star Conference. So at the manager and director level, I let them come to 1 conference a year, and I think this is probably the best.